There was a buzzing in the wall when she screamed it. Not in her voice. That came sharp, clean, intentional. But an actual buzzing, like something was trapped behind the drywall. A fly maybe. Or a wasp. Just flinging itself into oblivion. She didn't notice it. Of course she didn't. She was too busy baring her teeth at me. You are the biggest failure I ever married. Not a failure. The failure. Like she had a whole lineup to compare me to. I heard the therapist inhale like she was about to intervene, but I beat her to it. Fair, I said. That's all. I didn't raise my voice. Didn't defend myself. I didn't even look at her, just stared at the fake fern in the corner of the room and wondered if that buzzing would stop if I punched the wall hard enough. What I didn't tell her in that moment, what neither of them knew, was that I had already packed my things. Not metaphorically. Literally. Everything I owned was already in the trunk of my car. The key to our apartment was in my pocket, warm and curved like guilt. She thought this was the climax. It wasn't. The real moment, the actual twist in the story, happened 3 hours earlier, in the quiet before the storm, when I'd made the mistake of looking under her side of the bed. There was a plastic storage bin under there. I knew it existed. She kept old college notebooks and receipts in it. But this time, it was half open. Like it had been checked recently. Or left in a rush. There was no dust on the lid. There was no notebook inside. Just two things. A gift bag from a hotel I'd never heard of. A handwritten note that said, "Let's not wait until the next retreat, Red Heart. Jay." That's it. No dramatic lipstick stain. No photos. Just a bag and a note. And still, it gutted me. I folded the note carefully, put it back where I found it, and walked out of the bedroom like I hadn't just swallowed 1,000 silent answers. By the time we got to therapy that afternoon, I already knew what I had to do. So when she screamed that sentence, the one she probably rehearsed in the mirror, I didn't cry, didn't beg. I simply said fair, stood up, and disappointed her the one way she didn't expect. By not fighting to stay. I walked out, and that buzzing in the wall, it didn't stop. I didn't go home right after walking out of that therapy session. I didn't go to a bar either, or call a friend. I just drove. Past the coffee shop we never went to anymore. Past the grocery store where she once made a scene about me forgetting almond milk. Past the dog park we used to sit at, even though we never owned a dog. I didn't even have a direction. I just needed the motion, like if I stopped moving, the weight of what I'd just done would crush me through the driver's seat. Eventually, I pulled over behind an old gas station on State Route 12. No one was around. Just an empty soda machine buzzing like that wall back in therapy. I sat in the car, engine running, staring at the hotel gift bag I had taken from under the bed that morning. I hadn't looked inside it yet. I didn't want to. I wanted to pretend it didn't exist, that I hadn't seen the note, that none of this was happening. But pretending is how I ended up here in the first place. So I opened it. The bag was matte black with gold foil lettering. The Riverton Grand, redefining escape. Inside was tissue paper that smelled faintly of some citrusy hotel scent. She had kept it pristine. Too pristine. I unfolded it like a coward defusing a bomb and pulled out what was inside. A keycard in a paper sleeve. A brochure for a couple's spa weekend package. And a luggage tag. A bright red one. The tag didn't have her name on it. It didn't have mine either. It said, J. Norland. That name didn't mean anything to me at first, but it felt familiar, like something I should know. I sat back and stared at it, letting the name repeat in my head like an echo. Then it hit me. 2 months earlier, she had gone on a company leadership retreat to a resort by the lake. I remember because I drove her to the train station, and she was in such a rush that she forgot her headphones and texted me halfway there in a panic. When I brought them to her, there was a man standing next to her, talking close. A tall guy, navy suit, slick hair. She never introduced me. When I asked who that was later, she said, "Just Jack. From North Logistics. He's harmless." J. Norland. Jack. North Logistics. It fit too neatly. I looked at that luggage tag like it had insulted me out loud. Suddenly, the spa brochure made sense. The retreat. The way she came back looking rested and distant and full of new phrases like rediscovering alignment and protecting personal time. I sat in my car for almost an hour, holding that tag like it could still burn me. It wasn't just the cheating. It was the precision of it, the planning, the confidence that I would never look, that I would just keep being the dull, boring, useful husband who fixed screens and scrubbed the shower and never dared to ask why she always kept her notifications off. She didn't even bother to hide the evidence that well. That's how little she thought of me. The bag went back in the trunk. And for the first time that day, I didn't feel numb. I felt something sharp forming inside me. Not anger, not yet, but clarity. The kind that doesn't shout or slam doors. The kind that just starts documenting. Because if she was going to write me out of her life in phases, then I was going to make sure she had no idea which chapter she was actually in. 7 years, you don't leave with just a trunk full of folded shirts and half-closed wounds. You leave with noise in your head, loose ends, forgotten chargers, 1,000 quiet questions. And one of mine was still sitting on the kitchen counter, her second phone. She called it her work phone, and I never questioned it. She always had a job that required after-hours check-ins, last-minute emails, brand emergencies. I used to think it made her important, irreplaceable, even. But ever since I saw that gift bag and the name J. Norland, I started wondering if that second phone had less to do with marketing and more to do with managing her double life. So I came back. The apartment was empty, like I expected. Celia always stayed after therapy to decompress, usually with wine and friends I'd never met. I used to feel guilty leaving those sessions early. Now I just moved through the space like a stranger burglarizing his own life. Her phone was still there, face down, plugged into the charger next to the cutting board. I stared at it like it might bite me. I didn't even have to unlock it. I wasn't that lucky. It unlocked itself. It buzzed once, flipped the screen on, and just sat there glowing with a text preview. Still thinking about that Sunday. Can't wait for November. Jay? I didn't move. I barely blinked. The message sat there, bold and blue, like it wanted to be seen. Like it had been waiting for me. My name wasn't on it. There was no context, no emoji, nothing else, but I knew. My stomach knew. My hands knew. The heat behind my ears knew. Sunday. That was the day she came home from the retreat, looking like she'd been scrubbed of guilt and dipped in lavender. She smelled like eucalyptus oil and hotel soap. She brought me a muffin from a roadside bakery. Blueberry. My favorite. I remember because I said, "You didn't have to," and she replied, "I wanted to bring you something sweet." She brought me a muffin. And someone else memories of the weekend. The lock screen dimmed. I didn't touch the phone. Didn't open the message. Didn't scroll. I wasn't ready for that yet. I knew that if I dove into her messages now, I'd start spiraling. I'd see pictures. Or pet names. Or worse. Words that used to be mine, recycled and handed off to a man who probably thought my wife was single, or basically divorced, or whatever lie she wrapped herself in. So I left the phone there. Because this time, I wanted her to know I saw it. I wanted her to wonder whether I'd read more. I wanted her to start panicking, not knowing what I knew or what I might do with it. But I didn't confront her. I didn't scream. I didn't accuse. I wanted to. Oh God, did I want to. But I also knew something was shifting inside me. I wasn't the sobbing husband anymore. I wasn't begging for crumbs of affection. I wasn't waiting to be chosen. No, I was choosing me now. So I did something she would never expect. I took the box from under the bed, the hotel bag, the spa brochure, the note, and I placed it neatly on her pillow. I even propped up the red luggage tag like a bow on top. And I left. No text. No goodbye. No door slam. Just silence. Let her come home to that. Let her imagine which part of her carefully crafted secret had leaked. Because when someone builds a double life, all it takes is a tiny crack, and everything begins to slide out. I wasn't trying to catch her slipping. I wasn't setting traps. I had no grand revenge plan yet. Only this strange, sharp clarity that followed me everywhere now, like a ghost tapping on my shoulder. That quiet moment after I placed the hotel bag on her pillow was supposed to be my exit wound. The clean cut. The drop the mic and walk away. But the next morning, she texted me like nothing had happened. Therapy was a lot yesterday. Hope you're okay. Let's talk later. No mention of the gift bag. No mention of the luggage tag. No panic. No apology. Just cool, composed Celia, recentering the narrative like she always did. Like she hadn't been exposed at all. So I waited. I didn't reply. I let the silence do the heavy lifting. That afternoon, while I was staying at an old friend's place, a friend who owed me a favor and didn't ask questions, something happened I never expected. Her voice came through my phone. Literally. A voice message. Not a call. Not a voicemail. One of those little audio blips people send when they're too busy to type. It showed up in my text like any normal message, except the contact name it came from wasn't mine. It was meant for someone else. I shouldn't have received it. But I did. And I pressed play. Her voice came through immediately, too loud through the speaker. "Hey babe," she whispered, all soft and syrupy. "I keep thinking about that morning in the sauna. You're insane, you know that?" I couldn't stop blushing the whole drive home. Anyway, I wish we'd had more time before I had to pretend everything was fine. This week is gonna be weird. I think he knows something. Just keep things quiet until I figure it out. Love you. Silence. Then the message ended. I sat there with the phone still in my hand, screen dimming, heart pounding so loud I could barely hear my own breathing. She hadn't addressed me. She hadn't mentioned a name. But there was no ambiguity left. She was talking about me. And she had meant that message for Jack. She sent it to my number. Somehow. Some glitch. Or maybe she was typing too fast. Or maybe the universe decided I deserved a moment of undeniable truth, one she couldn't spin or lie her way out of. Her voice, her guilt, her secret, served up on a silver platter. And yet, I didn't feel the rage I thought I would. I didn't throw the phone. I didn't scream into the walls. I didn't text her some vicious comeback or even say gotcha. I just sat there, quiet, processing. Because here's the thing people don't tell you about betrayal. It doesn't always burn. Sometimes it freezes, slows everything down. Your body gets cold. Your mind drifts like you're watching yourself from across the room. That's how I felt. Detached, unshocked, like I had been mourning her long before this moment. But that message, it changed something. It wasn't just evidence now. It was leverage. And for the first time since all of this began, I realized I didn't need to ask her for answers. I already had the proof. Now, it was just a question of how and when to use it. And maybe more importantly, who else might want to hear it too? 3 days passed, and she still hadn't acknowledged the voice message. Not a word about the luggage tag. Not a single reaction to the gift bag I left on her pillow like a hand grenade. She just kept texting these weirdly calm check-ins, like she was managing a PR crisis, and I was the headline she was trying to suppress. And I let her. I didn't reply. I wanted her mind racing. I wanted her unsure of what I knew. I wanted her wondering which wire had snapped. But then, on a cloudy Thursday around 11 a.m., I got a call I wasn't expecting, and from a number I didn't recognize. I was in my car again, parked outside a storage unit facility, staring at the key I had just rented for a small locker. I thought it was her at first, maybe calling from a work number to catch me off guard. But when I picked up, the voice wasn't hers. It was a man. "Hey, is this Russell? Russell Temple?" I froze. "Yeah, who's this?" He hesitated, then laughed nervously. "Sorry, this is Owen Myers. I'm Celia's boss. I was trying to reach her and must have hit the wrong contact. You're still saved under emergency contact in our records, I guess." I didn't speak. My hand was suddenly ice cold on the steering wheel. He cleared his throat. "Anyway, since I have you, is everything okay?" I heard she was taking a few days off, but she didn't really explain much. She left our Monday presentation mid-call and hasn't answered any of my messages. My throat tightened. She had told me she was working overtime this week. Busy with launches. Team chaos. That's why she needed space. That's why she was staying at a coworker's spare room. To focus. I said the only thing I could think of. "She didn't tell you she was on leave?" Owen exhaled hard. "No. And not to get in the middle of anything. But, look, I've known Celia for 6 years. She's one of our best. Sharp. Focused. But the last few months, something's been off. There were rumors after the leadership retreat. And..." He stopped himself. I leaned forward. "What kind of rumors?" Another pause. "Honestly, stuff I shouldn't repeat. But I'll say this. If she's dragging you into something messy, or if there's been any misconduct on the retreat end, HR's starting to pay attention. Just be careful." The line went quiet. I thanked him and hung up. My head was spinning. So now her boss knew something was wrong. Her team knew. HR was sniffing around. The retreat wasn't just a personal betrayal anymore. It was a professional liability. That explained her sudden distance. Her calmness wasn't strength. It was survival mode. She was cornered and trying to stay above water. But what she didn't know was that I already had the recording, the spa brochure, the note, the tag. And now I had a man on the inside who had just confirmed it wasn't just about me anymore. She hadn't just lied to me. She had compromised everything. So I made a decision. I took the USB drive from my glove box, the one I had used to store that voice message, and I slipped it into a padded envelope. No note. No return address. Just her company's mailing address and the name. Owen Myers. I wasn't trying to ruin her. Not yet. But I wanted her to know. She's not in control of the story anymore. I hadn't heard her voice in 5 days. Not in person, not through the phone, not even by accident. Her last few texts sat unopened on my screen like flies pressed against glass. Buzzing, aimless, trying to get in but failing. I hadn't blocked her. That felt too clean, too final. And despite everything, some traitorous part of me still wanted her to try. To struggle. To squirm. To earn back the version of me she had shattered with that single word. Failure. So when I heard the knock on the door at 2:03 a.m., I didn't even need to check the peephole. It was her. She was still wearing makeup, but it had cracked around her eyes. Her hair was pulled back like she hadn't bothered brushing it before getting in the car. She was in one of those oversized sweaters that used to be mine, the dark green one with the stretched sleeves. And when I opened the door, she actually took a step back like she was afraid I might slam it in her face. I didn't. I just opened it and waited. "Can I come in?" she asked, her voice small, breaking on the last syllable like glass under pressure. I stepped aside. She walked in slowly, eyes darting around the apartment like she didn't recognize it anymore. And maybe she didn't. The framed photo of us was gone. The couch had a new throw blanket. The air felt different. Still, like something holy had been buried here. She turned to say something, but I raised a hand and pointed at the couch. "Sit." She hesitated, then did. She sat like she expected an interrogation, like she was preparing her defense. But I didn't say anything. I didn't ask questions. I just watched her squirm. After a long minute of silence, she broke. "I don't know what you think you know," she whispered. But I didn't mean for any of it to go that far. It was stupid. It was a mistake. And I've been so lost lately. I was trying to feel something again. There it was. The vague confession. The non-specific apology. The attempt to sell regret without ever naming the sin. No mention of Jack. No mention of the sauna. No mention of that Sunday. Just slippery words she could wriggle out of later if needed. I didn't nod. I didn't interrupt. I just let her talk. "It's not what it looks like," she added finally, as if that old classic might save her. I walked into the kitchen and opened the fridge. Took out a bottle of water. Cracked the cap. Took a long sip. Then walked back into the room and handed it to her without saying a word. She looked at it like it was a verdict. That's when her face really crumbled. "Russ, please. Talk to me. Yell at me. Hate me. Just don't shut me out like this. You're not even reacting." I leaned against the wall, crossed my arms, and asked, "What's Jack's last name?" She blinked. "What? Jack? What's his last name?" Her mouth opened and closed twice before she finally whispered, "Norland." I nodded. "You left a luggage tag in the gift bag, Celia." She let out a tiny gasp, like the air had been punched out of her. I didn't know it was still there." "And the voice message," I added casually. "The one where you said you couldn't stop blushing after the sauna? You sent it to me." Now her eyes were wide, panic mixing with shame. Her hand shook as she set the bottle of water down on the coffee table like she suddenly couldn't hold it anymore. "I was going to end it," she said quickly, like she believed it would undo the damage. "I told him this week I needed space. I swear." "After HR started asking questions?" I asked. "Or after I walked out of therapy?" She didn't answer. We stared at each other for a long time. Two ghosts in the same room. And maybe that's what we had become, echoes of a marriage that had stopped living a long time ago. I walked over to the hallway closet, pulled out a pillow and blanket, and dropped them gently on the couch beside her. "You're not sleeping in my bed," I said flatly. "But you can stay here until morning. Then we're going to talk about the lawyer." She didn't cry. Not after that. She just nodded. Slowly. Silently. And I walked into the bedroom, closed the door behind me, and locked it for the first time since we moved in. The next morning, she was already awake when I stepped out of the bedroom. She had folded the blanket, fluffed the pillow, and placed both on the arm of the couch like she was checking out of a hotel. Her hair was down, her makeup wiped clean, her expression unreadable. That same face she used when closing deals, pretending to negotiate when she'd already made the decision days ago. I made coffee. She didn't ask for any. She just sat there in the silence, rubbing the side of her thumb like she always did when she was trying not to panic. "Do you want to speak first?" I asked. She looked up. "Do I have a choice?" "You always had a choice. That was the problem." Her mouth tightened, but she didn't argue. We didn't fight. We didn't raise voices. That's the part people never believe. That sometimes marriages don't end with screaming. Sometimes they just crack open like old wallpaper, and you stand there staring at the mold underneath, wondering how long it was there without you noticing. By 10 a.m., I had emailed my cousin's firm. They called back 20 minutes later. Divorce wasn't a word I wanted to say out loud, but once it was in the air, I could feel the shift. Like the house suddenly had new gravity. Like everything we built, the couch, the wedding photos in the hallway, the matching mugs, had quietly rebranded themselves as assets. She tried to be civil. At first, we agreed to have an initial session with a mediator and our respective lawyers present. No war. No ugly threats. Just an exit plan. Ironic, since she had won all along. But on that call, something unexpected happened. Celia's voice trembled as she described me. He's cold, unemotional, detached. This is not the man I married. He's turning everything into a checklist. It's like he doesn't care about anything anymore. It's mechanical. I was quiet. So was my lawyer. Then hers. A woman named Angela who sounded like she wore expensive perfume and had zero patience for melodrama. Cleared her throat and said something I'll never forget. Being cold isn't a crime. It's a coping mechanism. If that's your argument, we'll be done in 15 minutes. Celia's face didn't react, but her silence said everything. I realized then that she was used to being in control. Of everything. Of emotions. Of tempo. Of me. But now that I wasn't chasing, begging, or reacting, I had become a mirror she couldn't manipulate. And it terrified her. She thought she could steer the narrative. Play the sad wife, the disappointed partner, the woman who strayed because she was unseen. But there were no tearful monologues this time. No dramatic therapy breakthroughs. Just documented infidelity, workplace misconduct, and a man, me, who had receipts and no appetite left for reconciliation. After the call ended, she turned to me. Is this really how you want to remember us? I stared at her. You screamed I was the biggest failure you ever married. You spent weekends in spas with another man while I folded your laundry and defended you to my family. You left a paper trail and called it freedom. So no, this isn't how I want to remember us. But it's how you made sure I would. She swallowed hard. That night, she packed a small suitcase and moved into a short-term rental across town. She texted me once. I thought I'd feel relieved. I don't. I didn't reply, because the truth was, neither did I. But sometimes, pain is the price of finally telling the truth to someone who never deserved your silence in the first place. The final hearing was scheduled for a Tuesday morning in early spring. It was one of those days that couldn't decide what season it wanted to be. Cold air, warm sun, tulip bulbs half awake in the courthouse flower beds. I sat on the bench outside the courtroom with a cup of burnt vending machine coffee and a folder in my lap. Inside it was everything I'd fought to keep: documents, copies of that voice message, printed emails, bank statements. But by that point, it didn't feel like ammunition anymore. It felt like closure. She arrived 10 minutes late. Not dramatically so, just enough to make me wonder if she would at all. Celia wore gray, simple and quiet. No perfume, no jewelry. Her hair was down, wind-tossed. She looked tired in a way I hadn't seen before, not exhausted from running, but from stopping. We didn't speak much before we went in. Just a nod. The hearing was uneventful. Paperwork reviewed. Agreements confirmed. No arguments. No last-minute pleas. No dramatic objections. Just the quiet, clean disassembling of something we both used to believe in. When it ended, the judge gave us the standard reminder. Finalization pending review. 30 days to contest, if needed. Neither of us would. As we stood to leave, Celia turned to me and quietly said, "Can we talk for a second? Just out there." I hesitated, then followed her out to the hallway. There was no one around. Just the hum of fluorescent lights and the distant echo of heels on marble. She reached into her purse and pulled out a small, folded piece of paper. No envelope. Just a note. She slid it toward me. "I don't expect anything from this," she said. "But I wrote it for me. And maybe for you." Then she walked away. I didn't open it immediately. I waited until I was back in my car, parked under a tree just starting to bloom. When I finally unfolded the paper, her handwriting was shaky. A few smudges where she'd either hesitated or cried. But the message was clear. "Russell, you didn't fail me. I failed myself, and then blamed you for the mess. You deserved better love than I knew how to give. I hope you find it. Truly. See, I read it 3 times. Not because I wanted her back. Not because I believed it changed anything. But because, for once, it felt real. Not performance. Not manipulation. Just honesty. And maybe that's the best you can ask for at the end of something that once meant everything. I didn't text her. I didn't gloat. I didn't burn the letter or frame it or analyze every word. I just folded it up, started the car, and drove toward a small coastal town I'd visited once as a kid. No plan, no deadline. Just me. No buzzing in the walls. No voice messages. No pretending. And for the first time in years, the silence didn't feel heavy. It felt like breathing again.